Well, I love 10mm anyway, and I love 10mm in just about any kind of gun, whether it's a handgun or even a long gun like a carbine. But this is the first time I've shot 10mm in a revolver, and of course, in this 6.5-inch barrel Smith & Wesson Model 610, it is a whole lot of fun. The gun just tames the 10mm so well. You got all this weight, you know, and you got that balance of the, or maybe even the imbalance of this long barrel out front with this full lug, and there's really a lot of counterweight out there to fight against that recoil, and it is just very smooth. Of course, the Model 610 is a 10mm. The barrel length is 6.5 inches. Overall length of this gun is a whopping 12 inches. It weighs 50.1 ounces, so there's a handful of weight there in this 6.5-inch gun. It has a standard Smith & Wesson revolver sights on it, in that the rear sight is adjustable and it's a decent sight with a white outline. The front sight on this one is just a black serrated blade. It's a good quality sight, but it doesn't offer a great sight picture. For me, a little dab of sight paint, or even swapping it out with another sight, would be preferable, and that's something you can do because you can just knock out a little pin and change the sight. It is, of course, a double action revolver, also capable of single action, and it has that fantastic Smith & Wesson action. Finish of the gun is stainless steel. It is constructed of all stainless steel except for maybe some of the small parts. That is what the 6 designation in the model number stands for. And since this here is a 6 shooter, capacity is 6. Suggested retail price is $969. You probably will find it just under $900 on the shelf. I've never personally heard anyone say, I wish I had a 10mm revolver to shoot in this match. But that has been, over time, a legitimate use for this Model 610. In the past, people bought it just for that reason, and perhaps they will again. The model was first introduced in 1990, but it only lasted till 1992 before Smith & Wesson dumped it from the lineup. I think, obviously it was very poor sales, but I think what happened was Smith was maybe a little bit late to the party as far as 10mm, which everybody thought was going to be really popular, and it turned out not to be at all. The Model 610 has come and gone a couple of times over the years, being reissued and then subsequently being taken back off of production, but it's mostly a competition handgun, believe it or not, although I'm sure, especially in this version of it with the 6.5-inch barrel, handgun hunters could be interested in it as well. But unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple years, you know that 10mm is more popular now than it's ever been in its history. At one time, it was thought to be completely extinct. Now, everybody's making just about everything in 10mm. So needless to say, this is the ideal time for another re-release of the Model 610, and the folks at Smith & Wesson are smart enough to do just that. They started producing this gun in the spring of this year, 2019, and it's been doing fairly well, I believe. Smith & Wesson loaned me this copy of the 610 at my request, with my preference being for the longer barrel. I don't know, to me, just the end-frame guns seem to have a really nice balance with that long, heavy barrel out front, and it's just something about the end frame with a long barrel that appeals to me. I certainly wouldn't mind trying out the 4-inch as well, and I'm sure that is a really nice gun and probably much more suited to competitions and things of that nature. I do love a Smith & Wesson double action revolver, and I really like the 10mm cartridge, so this was a gun I pretty much had to check out. So I used 4 of the most common ammunition types that I use typically when I'm shooting 10mm, and definitely 4 of the ones that were well representative of the stuff I was shooting through this gun. And I did some rested shots from 20 yards, and here are the results. Here are the resulting groups of those shots. Every one of them is very respectable, and they're also pretty consistent, so I was real happy with that. So again, this was just rested on a good quality rest, but it wasn't clamped into a vise, so there's still some shooter error involved. But I think this is a good representation of how this revolver is going to perform with most off-the-shelf types of ammo. And of course, if you like Smith & Wesson revolvers, like I like Smith & Wesson revolvers, then it has all the things that you like, and even some of the things that are considered extras, like this beautiful wide hammer spur, which is like the Target hammer spur. It's got a smooth-faced trigger, doesn't have that serrated trigger, but it is a very smooth double action. One possible downside here, 10mm ammo is not the cheapest stuff you're going to find on the shelf, and this gun is so much fun to shoot, probably going to shoot a lot of it. Because this is a revolver shooting an automatic cartridge, it uses moon clips. Smith & Wesson provides 3 moon clips with the gun. They're very good quality moon clips. The 10mm cartridges can be shot without moon clips, but they're very difficult to extract. You basically have to pluck each one out with your fingernail. You can also shoot 40 Smith & Wesson, which is essentially 10mm short, but you can only do that with the moon clips. This gun handles the 10mm recoil very nicely, mostly due to that 50 ounces of weight. Sights are okay, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of a black front sight against a black rear sight. You know, it's old school, but it's just it's just harder for me. The rubber grip on this gun is very comfortable. It also provides a really nice, stable grip on the pistol, and it helps to soften some of that recoil. I shot a lot of brands of ammo through this gun. I mean, like probably a dozen different kinds of loads. I had a little bit of a problem that I isolated down to one particular brand and one particular batch. I think the problem was that the cases were overexpanding a little bit, and they were causing the cylinder to get too tight and almost lock up. At first I thought maybe that was going to be a moon clip problem when it first started happening, and so I checked them very carefully. One of the problems you can have with moon clips is if any of them become bent or warped, they can lock up your cylinder. But these moon clips were very well made, and they didn't have any of that problem going on. Once I eliminated that particular batch of ammo, I never had a problem again.